Solana's usage hits record highs. Holders of this token prepare for an $800 million unlock and more. In this video, I'll give you the rundown of the most important events in crypto for this week. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. In this channel, I teach you how to use decentralized finance and invest in crypto. Reminder that although I'll talk about several different tokens in this video, I'm not suggesting you invest in any of them. You still need to do your own research, of which this video can be a part. Now let's get into it. Before we get into the headline story, if you want to follow along on this video, it's based on my weekly newsletter, which I think is the best concise weekly newsletter in crypto. In less than 5 minutes, you can get caught up on essential readings, top stories, on-chain analysis, and even tools to help you become a better crypto investor yourself. Subscribe at dynamodefi.substack.com. Next up, the headline story for today. Solana is at or near all-time highs across a variety of fundamental analysis metrics. Here's a tweet from Mert, the CEO of Helios Labs, saying Solana is either exceeding or at all-time highs for TVL, revenue, volume, real economic activity, developer activity, transactions, net inflows, and deduped stable transfer volume. He goes on to say, not bad for a chain that will never amount to anything according to this app, obviously. A bit tongue-in-cheek there, and some of the metrics that he highlights to this, for example, our revenue is up. There was a lot of talk in the past that Solana, because the fees were so low, would never become economically viable, and that is not the case now, where on a daily basis, millions of dollars of fees are being paid just because of the sheer volume of usage, even though each individual transaction is cheap. TVL is also near all-time highs. Personally, I like to include liquid staking on this, and if you look at this, it just recently passed its all-time high from 2021, and this just looks like it's getting ready to rush even higher. And one thing that's really important with TVL is that you always want to switch from USD to the native token as well, because this tells you whether it's just price-based or whether new money is actually entering. And here we can see that the all-time high previously was from 2022, June 2022, when it was around 77 million SOL. And then today we are right back around 77, 78 million SOL. And you can see that when you strip away price action, money has just been entering Solana DeFi for the past year. You go back to last October, it's just been on this steady climb to new all-time highs in terms of Solana. If you look at transactions and active addresses, even though those metrics are less important in my view, those are also at all-time highs. Again, representing the high volume that's on the chain. Another interesting metric is that decentralized exchange volume on Solana is basically at unheard of levels in terms of dominance right now. Over the past 24 hours when I'm making this video, $1.85 billion was transacted on Solana exchanges. For comparison, Ethereum mainnet, which has historically been the number one by far, is doing about $858 million in volume. And even if you include Ethereum's layer 2s like Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, even then it's barely higher than Solana. And if you look at the actual dominance on Solana decentralized exchanges, then this week it is at around 31.5%. And last week it was at 32.8%. And for comparison, to give you a sense of basically how unheard of this was, if you go back to 1 year ago, Solana was the fourth largest chain for trading, and it was at around 6%. So that's over 5x increase in dominance in just 1 year. And then finally, and in my opinion, this is the most important metric that we'll talk about today. Economic activity that's happening on Solana is at unheard levels and unheard levels of dominance. If we look here at the top applications by fees paid over the past 7 days, 5 out of the top 10 were on Solana. Jito, Solana itself, Radium, Bloxroot, and Photon, including the top 3. So at the moment, there's Solana plus Jito, which is the top liquid staking platform on Solana, and Radium, which is the top exchange on Solana. All 3 of those are bringing in more fees than the entire Ethereum network. And what this shows is that people are actually paying to use Solana. They're paying to use the apps on Solana. And this is important because you can fake transaction volume. You can fake addresses, right? You can set up 100 addresses yourself if you wanted to. But it's really tough to fake economic activity because all this money, this $28 million that was spent on Jito, that's going somewhere. $25 million that was spent on Solana, it's going somewhere. So that becomes much more difficult to fake. Now, it needs to be noted that a large portion of the activity that's on Solana is driven by people speculating on meme coins. However, hasn't every crypto cycle ever been driven, at least in some part, by people speculating on new altcoins? And the fact that those speculators are now choosing to go on Solana should be taken as a signal, right? And it's a signal that this network has found some sort of product market fit. And the fact that these stats have in many cases been increasing steadily for the past 12 months shows me that probably it's here to stay. Next up, we have the famous investor Marc Andreessen launching an on-chain meme coin investing agent known as AI16Z. But before I get into that more, this video is brought to you by Scale. Scale is a gas-free network for using crypto. They have tons of cool gaming applications, and they have this quest series going on right now. Scale Swell, you can do social quests, on-chain quests, and more, and earn rewards. Swell.scale.space, really awesome team. So I don't normally do partnerships on this channel, but I was happy to partner with them. All right, so let's talk about this Marc Andreessen news now. This is his announcement post AI16Z, and this DAO was launched through this application called DAOs.fun, which is basically a place to launch DAOs for trading meme coins. You can seed it with money, and then people can buy the tokenized fund. And you can see that this AI16Z, probably because of the founder, is by far the largest one at the moment, with a market cap of around $29 million. And the interesting thing about this one is that basically it's supposedly going to be this on-chain agent that's able to execute trades on its own. And I don't know exactly how it's going to determine what to buy. My understanding is that it's going to have to do with the DAO Telegram and what people are proposing in there. Then it's going to develop its own thesis. I think it's an interesting proof of concept. Truthfully, I would be surprised if this fund performed particularly well, not because of the founder, who of course is a legend and a genius, but because of the fact that it's the first trial, and in the past, these sorts of DAO-based investment funds have oftentimes struggled. That being said, in the future, I predict that you're going to see most entities interacting on chain are not humans. There's some form of bots, and some of those could be your standard sort of trading bots. Some of them could be these sorts of AI on-chain agents. And so I think it's a really interesting proof of concept. And I think over the next few years, you're going to see a lot more stuff like that. And for that reason alone, it's worth paying attention to. Next piece of news. Stacks Nakamoto is set to go live on October 29th. Perhaps by the time you're watching this, it's already going to be live. And this is basically set to make the Stacks network, which is a top Bitcoin layer 2, several orders of magnitude faster. So it'll take seconds instead of over 10 minutes. And it's going to make it secured by Bitcoin finality. So this is going to be the most secure, most decentralized Bitcoin layer 2. It's not just a sidechain. And it's going to pave the way for next month. They're launching SBTC, which is going to be a wrapped version of Bitcoin on Stacks layer 2. And they're doing this in a novel, decentralized way. And the reason that I am pretty hype on Stacks is that Bitcoin is the largest crypto asset by far, over $1 trillion market cap. And what Stacks is promising to do is unlock some of Bitcoin's potential to actually be used in DeFi. Use it to generate yield, lend it out, use it as collateral for a loan. And they're, unlike a lot of these other ways that you can leverage Bitcoin using a wrapped version, it's actually inheriting some of the security properties of Bitcoin. So definitely keep an eye on this if you're into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Next up, and this was a bit over a week ago, but Stripe announced their acquisition of Bridge for $1.1 billion. This is a stablecoins platform. And I think this take by Pirate Wires is really interesting. And what this take proposes is that the real prize for Stripe is winning the B2B payments market that's currently controlled by banks. Currently, Stripe does around $1 trillion in annual volume. And for comparison, B2B payments account for around $120 trillion. And so what if, using this new element of their tech stack, stablecoins, Stripe is actually able to eat into that? It could be massive, and actually I think could set the stage for moving other parts of the financial system away from banks onto blockchains. And again, as we've talked about many times on this channel, stablecoins, one of the killer use cases of crypto, and one of the verticals that's often overlooked, but one of the most important things to watch is the total stablecoins market cap. Currently, it's at around $171 billion. I think in the future, we're going to see this in the trillions of dollars, especially as players like Stripe start to push harder on chain and use their experience in distribution to build products that can get in the hands of billions of people. This was also a huge week for Bitcoin ETF flows. Most days over the past week saw hundreds of millions of dollars net enter Bitcoin ETFs. And so that means that's accounting for the outflows. In net, hundreds of millions of dollars entered almost every single day. And if you now look at the total cumulative flow since the ETFs launched, it's over $22 billion. And my feeling is we had a halving earlier this year. We have this massive amount of Bitcoin that's now being taken off the market into ETFs. I feel like it's starting to look like a balloon that's held underwater, where you're going to have a lot of supply pressure on Bitcoin and a lot of continuous elevated demand pressure from people DCAing into it to put into ETFs with their retirement accounts. And it's for these reasons and more that this legendary research broker published one of its famous black books on Bitcoin and predicts that Bitcoin will hit $200,000 by the end of 2025. Next up, we have the farm of the week. And this week's farm of the week is on Airdrome on the Base network. Solve Protocol has launched 3 pools for their wrapped version of Bitcoin, Solve BTC, and they've got pretty good yields right now. You can pair Solve BTC with Coinbase's CBBTC, Solve BTC with another Solve Protocol wrapped version of Bitcoin, and then Solve BTC with wrapped ETH. And if you look at the actual yield on these right now, and you can see that oftentimes it's 40 or even over 50%. I mean, this Solve BTC, CBBTC is really interesting because although you are taking on some bridge risk and you're taking on some smart contract risk by depositing into Airdrome, you can actually earn what's an almost unheard of yield on your Bitcoin at over 50%. So that's the farm of the week. To wrap things up, we have some significant token unlocks coming up this week. And definitely don't want to miss these because if you're holding these tokens, you need to be aware of this. First up, Celestia. If you're holding TIA or you're thinking about buying TIA, over $900 million is being unlocked in less than 2 days from the time that I'm recording this video. That's 82% of the current supply. Now, not all that's going to be sold, but a lot of these people are up a lot. And so there's going to be some substantial sell pressure. Now, who knows what announcements Celestia might have in their back pocket. I'm not trying to FUD. However, it's tough to imagine there isn't some scenario where there's either sell pressure leading up to this, after the fact, or sustained into the short to midterm afterwards. So I would just be aware of that if you're thinking about holding Celestia, and know that if you're thinking about buying it, then you may get a better price in the near future. Some other unlocks that are still substantial but not on that same scale are OP with 2.5% and SUI with 2.47%. By the way, this website, Tokenomist, is awesome. I'll link it down in the description, but get a 5% discount if you use my referral code. It tracks basically all the major token unlocks so you don't get blindsided. To learn more about DeFi investing, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.